Welcome back to week 2 of the Bible Scholars course. In last week's session, we broke down the creation story in the first book of the Bible from the Hebraic perspective and explained that Moses, the writer of the book of Genesis, was using the creation story as an allegory to express an eternal ideal. That whenever Yah begins to move throughout the earth, his spirit begins to establish natural cycles of creation that mankind must be subservient to. And these cycles are eternal, i.e., they matter, regardless of the time period or dispensation of man. By honoring these natural cycles, mankind possesses the capability of experiencing life perpetual. So, in today's lesson, we will break down the eternal idea of the Genesis formula as it pertains to the promise of how to experience perpetual life on earth. Now, to comprehend the eternal purpose of the Adamic species on earth, we first have to comprehend exactly what our charge is as it relates to the order of the creations mentioned in the first chapter of the book of Genesis. To understand that, we first have to comprehend exactly what it means to be a Hebrew. So the term Hebrew, as we mentioned in the first session, is Greek, and the correct pronunciation of the word is Ivrit in the Holy Tongue. The root form of Ivrit is Iber or Iver, meaning to cross over or to pass through or beyond something. The first mention of this word is in Genesis chapter 10, verse 24, where Shem's great-grandson Ever was born. The next mention of the word as a title is in chapter 14, verse 13, where it refers to Abraham, who was known as the father of the Hebrews. Abraham earlier in chapter 12 is called out of the Ur of the Chaldeans, from whence he was born, to head westward to Hebron, which is affectionately referred to as the Promised Land, which is located in modern-day Israel. Now, Abraham being called out of the Chaldeans by Yah and crossing over to the land promised to him and his descendants is seen as not just a physical act, but a spiritual one. Where Abraham, having enough faith in the Creator, made a decision to leave an environment that at the time was controlled by Gentiles to enter into an unknown environment is regarded as him leaving his old life behind for a higher calling or a righteous purpose. So from a Hebraic standpoint, he moved from one state of unrighteousness to accept a state of complete righteousness where he was living in the moment on faith in Yah. This set him and his seed after him on a new course where they would begin to receive blessings from the Creator. This act is something that in our generation we have to see as an example as to what we should do when we become aware of a higher way of living according to our spiritual beliefs. This shift causes one to enter into a conscious state of awareness where you now possess what's referred to as Hebrew thought, or you now possess an eternal consciousness, where at this point you can now begin to comprehend and create eternal ideals as they are revealed to you by Yah. This is the highest state of attainment for mankind on earth, reaching that point where Adam was back in the Genesis, when they received the breath of life, and at that point, they became a living soul. The breath, as we reviewed in the last session, is associated with a form of intellect, or a higher state of awareness, where you now can understand what it takes to maintain your life and the lives of others perpetually on earth. Comprehending this idea gives us the ability to understand what it means to be holistic. The definition of the word holistic means, number one, characterized by comprehension of the parts of something as intimately interconnected and explicable only by reference to the whole. Two, relating to or concerned with the whole or with complete systems rather than with the analysis of, treatment of, or dissection into parts. And lastly, three, of or relating to holism. Now, holism being the belief system that the whole is regarded as greater than the sum of its parts, where things can exist independently of the whole and everything is intimately interconnected. So once an individual taps into this Hebraic state of consciousness, at that point, you begin to see how you play a larger role in existing on this planet that goes beyond just you providing and living for yourself. You begin to see how every creation on earth is intimately connected to one another and how you all depend on each other to exist. This is ultimately the image that Moses mentioned in chapter 1, verse 26, where he wrote that Elohim made mankind in his image. And being in his image means that our responsibility on earth is tied into the perpetuation and the maintenance of all of creation. That becomes a higher calling for a son or daughter of Yah. It's a form of stewardship that we all must actively engage in order to live in harmony with one another. And this brings us to the Genesis idea. The idea that there's a formula that was given to us by the Creator via Moses in the first 2 chapters of the book of Genesis, that if we comprehend them and apply them, we can begin to tap into this eternal state right now. So we're going to identify these 7 eternal instructions that the Creator gave Adam in the Genesis to live by in order to experience eternal life on earth.